Good afternoon, Year 2, and welcome to your science lesson. I'm going to share my screen and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to first of all, we'll do our just check-in. So we're going to start with our last lesson. What does sow mean? So remember we were talking about the seeds and they were having to be sown at a certain point. And what does sow when it comes to seeds mean? And what different things can a seed grow into? Off you go. Pause if you need to. Okay, well done. So what does sow mean? So sow actually means, in the terms of planting, it means to plant it, to put it in the soil, put it in the ground, and to plant it. Okay, what can a seed grow into? Loads of different things. It can go into a tree, it can have flowers, it can have fruits, and we can have plants, all different things a seed can grow into. Well done. Okay, let's go over to this side over here. And true or false, dancing is exercise. Would you write true or false? And how do fish take in their oxygen? Off you go. Okay. Wonderful, pause if you need to. Okay, so true or false, dancing is exercise. The answer is true. And fish take in their oxygen through their gills. So we take it into our lungs, but fish take it into their gills. Well done if you got those right. Okay, who can tell me some of the key things that animals need to have around or in or near their habitat to make it a good habitat? Off you go. Pause if you need to. Okay, so some of the things you may have put down is they need to be able to have food. They might need to have water. They also need to have shelter, safety, and things like that in their habitat as well. So food, water, shelter are the main things we'd want to see in their habitat to keep it safe. And maybe like when I talk about shelter, it might be camouflage, they can disguise themselves, somewhere to keep warm. Right, and from year 1, can you name 2 features, 2 parts of a tree? Off you go, write them down, pause if you need to. Okay, well done. So 2 features of a tree, there's lots of different features and you can send your answers to it, but the 2 I'm going to write down is leaves, and I'm also going to put like a plant that holds them in the ground, holds it upright, roots. Okay, fantastic. Well done. Right, so our big question this afternoon that we're going to be learning is, what are bulbs? What are bulbs? So this afternoon, we're going to look at a bulb. So if you haven't got a bulb in your house, I've got one that I can use on here in my house. We're going to describe when it grows. We're going to describe what it needs to grow, and we're going to describe the stages of how it grows. Okay? But first of all, have a go at sorting out these statements. A bulb gives us light. Plants grow in spring. Some plants don't grow from seeds. So can you sort out which ones of these are true, false, or somewhere in the middle, which means they're sometimes true, but sometimes also false? Off you go. Pause your screen and try sorting them for me. Okay, let's sort them out together then. So a bulb gives us light. I'm going to put that one somewhere in the middle because there is a light bulb that gives us light, but there's also a different type of bulb that we're going to learn today, which doesn't give us light. Plants grow in the spring is true. Most plants do grow in the spring. Some grow in the summer and some even do grow in the autumn, but I'm going to put it nearer true because most do grow in the spring. And then some plants don't grow from seeds is also over here in the nearly true, because lots of plants do grow from seeds, but as we're going to learn today, some grow from a bulb. Okay, let's get started. So what do plants grow from? Do they only grow from seeds? Well, I've been talking about that already, and that's what we're going to use today. So plants can grow from seeds, definitely, but it's not the only thing that they can grow from. They can also grow from bulbs. And here are some pictures of some bulbs. And you may recognize they look a little bit like onions. Okay, they do look a little bit like that. And I've got one here. You can see it in the video. Okay, so I've got my one here that looks like this, and it's already started to grow because I knew we were going to be doing this experiment. So I've been putting it inside already, and you can see the green shoots coming up and the roots and the soil. So that's my bulb in there that I'm going to come back to in a minute. So a bulb contains everything that a plant needs to grow. So inside this bulb, inside here, and inside here, this bulb in here as well, it has everything that it needs to grow. So sometimes, if you're a bit like me and an onion gets lost at the back of a cupboard or the back of the fridge, it will start to sprout. And you can see that mine, this isn't an onion, but this bulb is beginning to sprout. And you may have seen that in an onion because it hasn't, even though it hasn't been watered and it hasn't been given sunlight or whatever, it will start to grow because inside here, it's got everything that it does need to grow. So this onion has been cut in half, if you can see, and you can see inside it the shoot growing. And even though it hasn't been watered, but it's been in a cupboard for a long time, you can see that then the sprout comes out, even though it hasn't been watered. So why do you think bulbs and some plants need to have a store of their food inside here, inside the bulb? Think about where you may find this bulb, where my other bulbs that are in my garden are, and look at this picture. Why might they need to have a store of food? Have a little think. Pause the screen if you need to. Okay. So it's because they have to survive the winter in the cold ground. And in the winter months, we don't get the sunlight, which is where our plants get their food from. You'd have learned that in year 1. They take the sunlight in their leaves and they turn it using photosynthesis into food. But in the winter months, they don't have that food on them all the time. They have to be able to store it because they don't get as much sunlight. And these plants flower in the spring. So we've got some daffodils and tulips, and they plant in the spring. They have to survive the winter in the cold ground. They do not have the warm sun to provide them with energy. So they need their things inside the bulb and they can store their food in there. And that's why if you look at this flower, that's where even though it's been snowing and cold and not much sun, it's still been able to grow. Garlic bulbs, so they're the bulbs that the garlic that we put in our food, they start off as bulbs growing. They are in the ground all winter and they're ready to be harvested, which we learned about last week, which means cut down and been able to use and been taken out of the ground and used for cookery or whatever. They are ready to be harvested in the spring and summer months. This means they need their own source of food to start growing because they're growing all winter and they can't get it from the sun. So that's why they are part of a bulb. When plants grow in the ground, it is hard to see the roots growing. You can only see, because obviously when we've got a bulb in the ground, we won't be able to see the roots. But if you look very closely, so I can get it in the camera. There we go. So you can see here my bulb, you can see its roots that are starting to grow. And I wouldn't be able to see that if that was in the ground. Can you see the roots? Yeah. So we are going to be planting a bulb in a transparent container to see how it grows. And transparent means we can see through it. We can see exactly through it and we know exactly what's going on, so we can see through it. So if you have got a bulb at home that your parents were going to use for gardening, but they don't mind lending to you, or you want to order one quickly online, you can have a go at this experiment. Or if not, you can do what I'm doing and you can follow my video and use my bulb with me, which I'll be showing you every week. So we need to get a transparent container, either like this one or like this one. And if it's got this one like this, you can just put the bulb in the top and it sits there perfectly. But I didn't have one of those in my house. Well, I did have one, but I don't know where it's gone. So I just used a glass so I'd be able to still see it. And I filled it up with some pebbles or some marbles. And this will stop the bulb from sitting in the water when I put the water in. But you can see that it's, we can still be able to see what's going on and what's happening to our bulb. So fill the container with water. The water should be 0.5 centimetres under the base of the bulb, and place the container in a dark place. Check it weekly for growth and top up with water when necessary. So I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go and fill this up with water. I'll be back. Right, I'm back and I've filled it up with water, and I'm going to put it over here just for the moment, and then I'm going to put it in a dark place. There's a little spot in my kitchen and not too much sun comes through, so I can put it there and use it there. Right, let's get on with what we're doing. So as I said before, if you've got these resources at home that you want to use and you want to have a go, definitely set it up, definitely send us pictures, that would be wonderful. But if you haven't, don't worry, because you can use our experiment that we're going to be doing on the video each week. Okay, we should start seeing the roots growing in a few weeks, and then eventually the sprouting and the other parts of the plant, the flower, will start to grow. So this is a life cycle of a tulip. And let's look at the pictures. So in autumn, we plant the bulb, and in my garden out there, which maybe I'll come and show you one day actually, in my garden out there, I've got these troughs, and I've in my ground as well. And in autumn, so in the October months, I planted loads and loads of bulbs in my garden ready to grow. And they've been rained on and snowed on a little bit and all sorts of things, but they can still see they're beginning to sprout and they're beginning to come through. And in winter, they get their roots, and then they begin to see a little bit, just like you can see of my bulb, you can see a little bit of the roots coming through, a little bit of that sprout. And then in spring, it's so amazing, and hopefully we'll be back at school and I can take loads of pictures and show you, the flower starts to grow. And then by the end of the summer, it's the end of the season, it starts to die off again, and then you do need to plant a new bulb, or some bulbs are like annual, so then they'll start again, ready to go for the autumn, the winter as well. Okay, so this is the life cycle of a tulip. So in autumn, the bulb is planted in the ground. The bulb has everything the plant needs to grow. If you cut a bulb in half, you should be able to see the plant's leaves and the flower bud all in there, all inside, ready to grow. After a few weeks of cool weather, so even in autumn and winter, it's a bit cooler, the bulb grows roots, and a shoot, so this is called the shoot, emerges from the bulb. When the sun starts to warm the ground, the tulip will begin to flower. So you can see our tulip here flowering. When the tulip has finished flowering, the leaves dry out. The dying leaves send their nutrients down to the bulb. So they go down to the bulb, down to here. And the old bulb produces new bulbs that will be ready to flower again in the spring. Or you can take them out and put new ones in, but lots of bulbs will sort of regenerate and produce new bulbs that are ready to flower in the spring. So you can see through autumn, through to winter, through to spring, and through to summer. So this afternoon, as your task that you're going to do as an activity, is you've got these three pictures, okay? The autumn and the winter when they're planted, the autumn when they're planted, the winter when they start to sprout, and then in the spring when they become a flower. And then there's an extra picture that you need to draw of what happens in the summer. And on a page like this, or your own design, I want you to draw the different stages of the bulbs and write me a couple of sentences explaining what happens in those 4 seasons, using this and this to help you. And then send your finished life cycles about a bulb to year 2 at thepalmeracademy.com, and I'll have a look at them. All right then, and if any of you do manage to set up an experiment with the bulb and with the stones or in a glass, please, please, please send me pictures. I would love to see them. Have a lovely afternoon, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.